All right, so today we are diving deep into the world of Internal Threat.
This should be fun.
He's a musician, but not your typical artist.
Right.
What we have are some articles about his YouTube channel, a stack of lyrics from his songs.
Okay.
And get this, his journey actually started in virtual reality.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting because it might have really shaped his sound in a way most musicians never even have to think about.
Oh, how so?
Well, just imagine, trying to make music for a virtual world that is constantly changing people, logging in, logging off, trends coming, going. You almost have to make music that is less about, specifics and more about capturing a feeling or a vibe.
Okay, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So we're talking about virtual hangouts and horizon worlds, places with names like Crazy Lanes, Bowling,
Yeah.
Anyone, and Crazy Cantina.
Yeah, he was basically creating soundtracks for these online spaces.
So you're telling me I'm hanging out with my friends in a virtual bowling alley, and suddenly I've got this custom soundtrack going. That's next level.
It is, and it you could see how that background might lead to the kind of music that he makes, which is stuff that makes you want to move and just have fun.
Totally. But he didn't stay in the virtual world forever. He eventually makes the jump to YouTube, right?
He does. It seems like it was a couple things. Reaching a wider audience, for one.
Makes sense.
But also, wanting more control over his music. I mean, these VR spaces, they're so fluid, here today, gone tomorrow,
Right.
YouTube offered that permanence he was probably craving.
Yeah, for sure. Now, before we get to the music itself, we have to talk about this name, Internal Threat. It's catchy, but also a little ominous, don't you think?
Well, they say there's always more to the story.
Always.
He actually was working in cybersecurity when he chose that name, so it was partly a playful jab at the industry, don't take things too seriously, but also, and he's described it this way, as a reflection of his own personality.
Okay, so I'm already getting the sense that this is a guy who doesn't take himself too seriously.
Exactly. That comes through in his music, for sure. But before we get into the tracks themselves, there's one more piece of the puzzle I think we should look at, and that's his use of Suno AI. This is a tool that really allowed him to experiment with music production in a really cool way. He's blending genres in ways that he hadn't before.
We're seeing a lot of artists embracing AI tools these days, and it's definitely led to some cool experimentation for sure.
It has.
And I'm thinking about his song, 10 Days, that mix of hard rock and reggae. I mean, that's not a combination you hear every day.
No, it's not. And it speaks to his evolution as a musician. It's almost like he's not bound by these old genre conventions. He's using this tech to create something totally unique.
All right, so we've got this digital creator armed with AI tools, ready to unleash his music on the world. And unleash his music he did. We are diving into his songs now.
Right.
And we have got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, from pancake flipping metaphors to those chill late night vibes.
This is where that whole digital creator identity really shines, I think. Each song, it feels like its own little mini project.
Yeah.
Blending musical styles and personal stories, even a good dose of humor.
Okay, well, let's dig in. I mean, we have to start with Flip You Like a Pancake.
Of course.
That title alone, demands an explanation.
It really does. And the lyrics definitely don't disappoint. But what's interesting here is how it all started with a joke.
Okay.
From a friend, actually. And apparently it was a pretty suggestive joke about people being like pancakes.
Okay, so now I need to hear how this translates into a song.
Yeah. You've got lines like, I'll flip you like a pancake, hot off the pan, which, in context, take on a whole new meaning.
Oh, wow.
It's playful, it's a little cheeky, and it's got that fun-loving energy that we've been talking about.
I love that he brings that humor into the music.
So,
it's not something you hear every day.
It's really not.
Yeah.
It's refreshing. And that humor that we were just talking about, it pops up again in Wave Your Balls.
Okay.
Let's just say that one also has interesting origins.
Okay, duly noted. But for now, let's flip the script, no pun intended.
Right.
And go from pancakes to something a little bit smoother. Tell me about Unwind.
Okay. So if Flip You Like a Pancake is the party anthem, then Unwind is that perfect chill out track for, afterwards.
Okay.
It's about relaxation, letting go of stress, those moments of peace I think we all crave.
It's funny because even though it's clearly inspired by his own need to unwind, it feels universally relatable.
It does.
We all have those days where we just need to hit pause.
We do. Absolutely. He even says as much himself, everyone's got to find their own way to relax, whether it's music or being with friends, or just enjoying a little solitude.
Now you're talking my language. But speaking of vibes, Midnight Vibes sounds like the kind of song that's like perfect for a late night drive.
You nailed it. You can practically hear the wind in your hair.
Right.
The lyrics are all about,
Yeah.
cruising down streets, feeling the breeze, those moments of freedom and possibility that seem to come live after dark. You know what I mean?
You know what it reminds me of? Those like classic coming of age movies.
Exactly.
Just like cruising with your friends, not a care in the world. Musically, it gives off that atmospheric, almost nostalgic vibe.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of nostalgia, earlier we touched on 10 Days. That cool mix of hard rock and reggae.
Yeah.
What's the story there?
So this one's interesting because it's drawn straight from a personal experience.
Oh.
A relationship actually that moved way too fast.
Uh-huh. So that's where the 10 Days comes in.
Exactly. The lyrics really capture that frustration of having all these like expectations thrust upon you, that feeling that you just need to slam on the brakes a little bit.
And how does that like translate musically with that genre blend,
It's actually quite clever the way he does it. You have that intensity of the hard rock, which to me kind of reflects that initial excitement, that rush of like a new connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the reggae elements kind of come in almost like a reality check, just reminding everyone to slow down a little bit.
I like that because it's not just the lyrics telling the story, it's the music itself is actually like playing a part.
Precisely. It's a really creative use of genre to kind of convey those emotional ups and downs.
No, we've still got Chill Sessions and Wave Your Balls on our playlist here. And honestly, after everything we've already unpacked, I'm almost afraid to ask.
Well, one is a psychedelic celebration of friendship and deep conversations. And the other, well, let's just say it definitely lives up to its name in terms of pure, unadulterated fun.
All right,
You up for it?
bring it on. I am always up for a little psychedelic celebration. Let's talk Chill Sessions.
Yeah, this is a really cool track, and it gets to the heart of something that we see a lot in Internal Threat's work, that emphasis on authentic connection. This song is all about those late night conversations with friends that just like go on forever,
Oh, yeah, totally. Those moments where you're sharing something real and the music just kind of fades into the background and just becomes part of the memory.
Yeah. And I think the psychedelic element comes through in both the lyrics and the music. Lyrically, he talks about those nights that just feel like they could last forever, just getting lost in conversation. And then musically, it's got that smooth, almost hypnotic quality.
And I can practically see the lava lamps and like groovy animations already.
And, he actually has mentioned wanting to do more with that trippy visual style in his videos.
Okay.
So that tracks.
I'll be sure to keep an eye out. Okay, are we ready to tackle Wave Your Balls? I need the full backstory on this one.
Get ready to laugh, because this one started in a virtual bowling alley, of course.
Okay.
Internal Threat was just goofing around, waving a virtual bowling ball in the air, and boom, inspiration struck.
You've got to love those moments of just pure, spontaneous creativity. It makes you realize that like inspiration can hit you anywhere, even in a virtual bowling alley.
Right. And he really leans into the absurdity of it all. The lyrics are basically an invitation to let loose, have fun, and not take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
It's the perfect antidote to a stressful day.
It's like that feeling when you're at a concert and everyone throws their hands in the air and just goes wild,
Yes.
No judgment, just like pure energy.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
I think we could all use a little wave your balls energy in our lives.
Couldn't agree more. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from VR hangouts to pancake metaphors to some seriously catchy tunes. What is next for Internal Threat? What did the articles say?
Well, it sounds like he has big plans. More music for sure.
Well.
And he's hinted at wanting to explore, different genres even further.
Okay.
He's also talked about maybe doing some longer form projects.
Like a full-blown album.
Possibly, but he's also interested in like giving his audience a peek behind the curtain, so to speak.
Yeah.
He's mentioned wanting to incorporate mini podcasts about his creative process and, the challenges of putting yourself out there on YouTube, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that would be awesome. It's one thing to listen to the music, but getting to hear about like the journey behind it just like adds a whole other layer.
Absolutely. And you know what else is cool? He's really open to collaborating with other creators.
Oh, cool.
Both in the VR world and on YouTube.
Oh, wow. It sounds like the possibilities are endless for him.
They really are, but, no matter where his journey takes him, one thing remains constant that drive to experiment, learn, and connect with an audience through music.
And that's what makes Internal Threat such a fascinating case study. He's not just making music, he's building a community. It's almost like he's blurring the lines between, like, artist and creator and entertainer, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it really makes you think about how much the music industry has changed, especially with, the rise of social media, these new technologies. What does it even mean to be a musician in the digital age? It's a question worth pondering, for sure.
It certainly is. And on that note, I think we'll leave our listeners to explore Internal Threat's music for themselves. Who knows, maybe you'll discover your new favorite song, or even be inspired to create something of your own. Until next time.